Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the source material to completely rethink our understanding of the world's deadliest animals. We're going to move far away from those simple scare tactics, the Hollywood myths, and, those internet top 10 lists. Instead, we're exploring the fascinating realities of evolutionary biology, medical science, and human geography. Because, as you're going to see, what makes an animal truly deadly isn't always what you might expect.
So I want to kick things off with a number that represents the ultimate paradox in the animal kingdom. 0. That is the documented human death toll of the inland taipan. By absolutely every biological metric, this is the most acutely toxic land snake on planet Earth, and yet it has never killed a single person, not one. Just let that sit for a moment.
So the crucial point we need to make here, and kind of the whole thesis of this explainer, is separating lethality from danger. Lethality is simply a biological capability, right? It's how toxic a venom is in a controlled laboratory setting. Danger, on the other hand, is the actual practical likelihood of an animal ending your life. Basically, being the absolute most venomous creature on the planet does not automatically make you the most dangerous.
Here is our roadmap for the next few minutes. First, lethality versus true danger. Second, evolution's perfect biological weapons. Third, the geography of death. Fourth, venom as modern medicine. And finally, Section 5, the proximity problem. Let's get right into it.
Okay, Section 1, lethality versus true danger, the paradox of potency. To understand true danger, we really have to look at the collision between the human world and the animal world. Because if those two worlds never actually intersect, the danger is essentially zero.
Let's look back at our inland taipan. The numbers on this snake are just staggering. It has an LD50 of 0.025 milligrams per kilogram. To put that into perspective, a single bite yields enough venom to kill 100 adult humans. But here's the catch. It lives entirely isolated out in the remote Australian gibber desert. It evolved this mind-boggling multi-component venom arsenal strictly to hunt extremely fast-moving desert rats. It's a biological tool that is perfectly calibrated for its specific environment, not some kind of weapon of human destruction. Lethality is just an evolutionary tool.
Moving on to Section 2, evolution's perfect biological weapons, the arsenal. When millions of years of natural selection are really put to the test, you get incredibly perfect, deeply niche biological weapons.
Consider the timeline of a snake strike compared to your own body's reflexes. 0 seconds, the action begins. Boom. 0.13 seconds, the Australian death adder's strike is completely over. At 0.15 seconds, you finally finish blinking your eyes. By the time your nervous system is even begin to process the visual information that something is moving, the death adder has already hit you and retracted. It's a predatory strategy so complete it practically defies human comprehension. Then we have the South American rattlesnake, which brilliantly illustrates a relentless physiological assault. If you get bitten by one of these, you're facing an absolute 1-2-3 punch. First, the neurotoxins trigger progressive paralysis. Second, hemotoxins completely prevent your blood from clotting, which causes hemorrhage. And third, myotoxins begin literally destroying your skeletal muscle tissue. It is 3 separate catastrophic systemic failures happening inside the body at the exact same time.
And then, there's the gaboon viper. Now this animal doesn't need the blistering speed of the death adder. Instead, it possesses functional invisibility in the African leaf litter. It just simply waits. It actually has the longest fangs on Earth, 5 centimeters. That is long enough to punch straight through the sole of a hiking boot. Plus, it delivers a staggering 2,000 milligrams of venom in a single strike. It's a heavy, patient ambush predator built perfectly for its environment over millions of years. All right, Section 3, the geography of death, when things go wrong. So, what happens when these biological weapons are deployed against us? Well, this is where we see the logistical and medical nightmares that pop up when deadly animals overlap with under-resourced infrastructure.
The terrifying reality of a black mamba bite in rural Africa really comes down to one thing: time. The clock starts at 0 minutes when the bite occurs. Within just 20 minutes, neurological and cardiac failure sets in. But here is the fatal geographical math. The average travel time to a functional rural hospital that actually has cold storage antivenom can be hours. Before antivenom, the fatality rate was literally 100%. So the black mamba's lethality isn't just a venom issue. It's a terrifying race against a 20-minute operational clock where geography is the ultimate judge.
But listen, the horror isn't always just about the clock. Sometimes it is about the sheer agony.
This note from medical literature regarding the stonefish is honestly chilling. See, the stonefish looks exactly like a barnacle-covered rock. You step on it, and venom is driven deep into your foot. The visceral horror and pain are so absolute, so entirely beyond human tolerance, that conscious, completely coherent patients will repeatedly beg their doctors to amputate their foot just to make the pain stop.
We also see how geography and politics directly dictate survival when we look at the Arabian fat-tailed scorpion. In Saudi Arabia, robust healthcare infrastructure and rapid antivenom access means stings are highly survivable. But literally just across the border in Yemen, where conflict has interrupted supply chains and degraded medical facilities, that exact same biological event becomes fatal. The venom didn't change at all. The geopolitical healthcare gap did.
Okay, Section 4, Venom as Modern Medicine, the Subversion. Let's completely flip this terrifying narrative for a second. Because these exact same lethal mechanisms, they're actually actively advancing global medical science.
Take the many-banded crate. It's a snake that quietly kills sleeping people in rural China by causing irreversible neuromuscular binding. But when researchers isolated the specific compound doing this, a thing called alpha-bungarotoxin, it became a foundational pillar of modern neuroscience. It directly led to the creation of modern muscle relaxants and anesthesia. So the exact same venom ending lives in the dark is saving millions of lives in surgical theaters every single day. Or, get this, consider the Brazilian wandering spider. This massive spider unexpectedly hitches rides in global banana shipments, occasionally popping up in European supermarkets and forcing total store evacuations. But its venom, specifically a peptide called PNTX2-6, has a very specific side effect. And that side effect is now an absolute medical goldmine, funding clinical trials for erectile dysfunction in patients who don't respond to conventional medications.
Finally, Section 5, the proximity problem, the true killers. We've talked about the most toxic, the fastest, the most painful, but who actually causes the highest human death tolls?
When you look at the actual numbers, the reality is pretty stark. The inland taipan, the most toxic snake on Earth, kills 0. The hippopotamus kills up to 3,000. And the saw-scaled viper kills an estimated 60,000 people every single year. It's not the rarest or the most toxic animals that kill the most. It is the ones that live exactly where we do. The saw-scaled viper's staggering body count is basically a tragedy of probability and proximity. It lives right in the agricultural fields of South Asia and the Middle East. It's tiny, so it's super easily overlooked in the dirt. When it rubs its scales together to warn you, a sound called stridulation, it's already in its strike posture. It crosses paths with thousands of bare feet at dawn and dusk. Volume is its strategy, and sadly, volume is working. And then, of course, there's the hippo. Our harmless pop culture view of the hippo is this slow, sleepy, plant-eating barrel. But the brutal reality completely overturns that preconceived notion. It's the most dangerous large animal in Africa. It can run 30 kilometers an hour, boasts a bite force of 8,000 newtons, which, by the way, can shear right through an aluminum fishing boat. And it is fiercely, unpredictably territorial. The cartoon image is a lie, and that lie costs lives.
Lastly, we have the polar bear. Almost every other animal we've covered strikes out of defense, fear, or maybe a territorial dispute. But the polar bear, it's the only predator built to hunt humans intentionally. It can smell prey 30 kilometers away. And its predatory style isn't about some sudden aggressive outburst. It is about patient, methodical task completion. It just keeps coming. And terrifyingly, as sea ice retreats, they're being pushed ever closer to human settlements.
Which leaves us here. We share a planet with biological weapons perfected over millions of years, navigating a constant negotiation of shared spaces with literal apex predators. From the leaf litter of the Congo to the agricultural fields of India and the melting ice of the Arctic, we really have to ask ourselves, are we managing the wildlife, or is the wildlife actually managing us? Think about that the next time you step into the wild.